Pre-pandemic, we used to run our Tinkerers and Inventors community lunch once a month with our residents at New York Designs, and we would invite the public to these events as well. But once we closed last March, but we reopened in September, we really spent the last few months working on our operations and our facilities. And so this is technically our first public community lunch. We've had some community lunches that were just for our current residents, but this is the first one that we're kind of opening back up to the public because we're starting to feel like we miss our community of inventors and tinkerers, and we just want to continue to make sure that we're connecting with the community and educating, and also just learning what's new in the hardware design, manufacturing, consumer product field. So today we have two great speakers. We have Leslie Duvall and Shelly Sharmila. But first, we'll learn just a little bit about New York Designs if you don't know who we are. Oops. So we were founded in 2006. So we are 15 years old. We're almost 16. We're going to celebrate our sweet 16 next year. But we are a program at LaGuardia Community College, which is a school under the City University of New York, CUNY. We're located in Long Island City in Queens. As I was mentioning before, if you don't know where that is, if you've ever taken the 59th Street Bridge, we're right off of that. So our work, our mission, and what we are here to do is make sure that design and hardware tech startups have a place to affordably create, assemble, and distribute their work, have a team, their staff be able to work together in our space, and also occasionally receive help from mentors and advisors through our Strategies in Residence program and other opportunities that we offer through New York Designs. So we offer affordable studio spaces as our primary business model to help these types of startups, which range from $350 a month for a desk, or up to the most expensive studio, which is still pretty cheap, is about $3,000 a month. And our secondary work is making sure that they have the tools and the resources to run their business. And with that, being that we also have our makerspace, which is a 5,000 square foot fabrication lab, but it's still currently closed. And we are working on grants and other funding opportunities to get this lab reopened so we can continue to support the manufacturing community. But I mentioned that as that we're still closed with the Fab Lab, just as most of you have experienced in your businesses or in your day-to-day life, the issues of the pandemic and the challenges that you experience, whether you're a founder or a creator or inventor trying to get your product out to the market, or you're just interested in this space of how did businesses kind of get through the crisis, get through challenges, and create sustainable business models. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But if you've never followed us on social media before, we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and LinkedIn. We're all at New York Designs in all platforms, and you can call us or email us if you have any questions afterwards. So we're going to get into the panel, and I would like to ask Leslie and Shelly to introduce themselves first. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen because I know Leslie would like to also share. I'm just going to change the layout just a little bit, the view to the speaker view. And I'm going to pin some videos. So, oh, here you are, Leslie. Okay, great. And we're also going to pin Shelly. Okay. And myself, when I can find myself. And add pin. Okay, great. So if everyone can stay muted, there will be time for Q&A. So Leslie and Shelly are our current residents here at New York Designs. Leslie has been here for almost 3 years with Street Lab. Her and her husband are founders of this amazing organization, which she will tell you about. And Shelly has been here for over 2 years at New York Designs, and she has 2 businesses that she will tell you about. But the goal for today is to learn about how these 2 amazing women have become just really powerhouses during the pandemic, because both of them have really, really increased their business model and have been really killing it in the game and getting contracts and just staying very relevant on the scene. So Leslie, won't you go first with your introduction?
Sure. Thanks, Desiree. So yeah, I'm just going to show a few photos. So, well, thank you for that introduction. I have to say that it wasn't, you know, we are set up to do programs outside. That's most of what we do. We pop up. We're an organization, a nonprofit. So sort of the odd man out at New York Designs right now, but we create and share programs for public space, and all of our programs have a physical component. We've ended up custom designing our own furniture to create pop-up reading rooms that transform spaces in New York City. We go all over the city, plazas. We have a number of different programs. This is our reading room. We have a portable art studio. We have kind of a hands-on natural history museum in a cart. Lego Crazy Build, program called Write, and we work all over the city with hundreds of community groups that are trying to improve neighborhoods and that are in charge of some public space. So we work in parks and plazas, and now, you know, where we're really busy is there's all these new open spaces, and of course everybody's attention is on what can we do, how can we move things outside. So we're working at a lot of the open streets, the new closed off streets. We also fabricate, and this started, you know, right off the bat when we started our programming. We made our own furniture working with some architects, and groups contacted us and said, can we do the same thing? And so we started making our furniture for others, nonprofits, a lot of city agencies, libraries around the world that want to have a pop-up reading room. So we've been making these carts. We actually have a fabricator up in Massachusetts, but we do a lot of the work also ourselves here in New York, the finishing work. So these are just some of the shots. Sorry, I'm losing my voice at the moment. I don't know why. But anyway, here's benches, all kinds of materials. You can see this crazy furniture. And we've been designing it, yeah, to suit our needs so that it's quick to deploy, flat packable, and lightweight, and we can use it to really, you know, elevate sort of what we're doing in public space. When we show up, we want to make it look nice. So that's the introduction, and then I can go on to other discussions. I'll stop there. Let me stop sharing. There we go.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Great, thank you, Leslie. And Shelley, tell us about who you are and about both your businesses, Anchor and Aiken.
Sure. So Anchor Medical was built on disposable anesthesia and respiratory products for surgeries. And so we did that until the pandemic. During the pandemic, surgeries were put on hold. Scheduled surgeries were put on hold, so there were no need for surgical products anymore. So, you know, there were all these needs for PPEs and dietary supplements to boost up the immune system. And I had started Aiken Health for something else, a side project. And once this all started, what I did was I started finding PPEs such as masks, surgical gowns, shoe covers, head covers, and so on, partnering with a friend's company, bringing products from China. And that did really well for a while, until we went to, we were having issues bringing products over from China. We went to Turkey and Mexico and moved all those products over to Aiken Health, which is a non-RX company. So Aiken is really focusing on the products that are not surgical, such as PPEs, and we've been doing really well with that. And recently surgery started again. So Anchor, we started our surgical lines again. So we've got both companies, Aiken stayed with the PPEs. We're about to standardize scrubs with the city of New York, and Anchor, we've picked up where we left off with our surgical products. So that's basically what we do. Anchor Medical really, I think one of the reasons we've survived, because it's a hard industry to be in, is because we are in a niche marketplace. So we try to find the end users products that are not readily available, or products that needs to be customized. For example, for a long time, the hospitals have been using, if someone gets shot or stabbed or something in the street, and I was telling Desiree about this before, a while back, they used a device that needed a syringe to deflate, insert it, and then inflate it, and then send oxygen to the lungs. One of the products that we have is a product that you just stick it down, because it's made with silicone, a special medical grade plastic that self-seals. So you just send oxygen down, and it takes about 5 seconds to rescue the airway. So that's an example of some of the things that Anchor does that make us different from other companies. And Aiken Health, I think what makes us different is we try to find exactly what our customers need by making sure that all the boxes are checked. Because during the pandemic, there were lots and lots of fake masks, gowns, everything. I mean, so many fake products. But because I did what I did with Anchor Medical, I was very much aware of all the rules and regulations with the FDA. So we made sure that everyone, all the suppliers that were claiming that these products were FDA or they were compliant, but TAA compliant and NOSH, we made sure that we got the proper studies and paperwork. So we were actually one of the only companies that did not get in trouble for selling fake products. And at this point, what we're doing is we're using local New York City factories to make our PPEs, and which is a very big thing for our New York City hospitals. And what we're trying to do for the federal arena is making our products Berry compliant, which is making sure that even the threads are made in the United States. And the prices are a bit higher, but there are certain set-asides for, there used to be women-owned set-asides or minority-owned set-asides. Now I'm seeing more set-asides for Berry compliant, which is 100% made in the United States. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Well, I'll definitely have a lot of questions for you as it comes to like supply chain, and then now that, doing even the stitches you said are going to be made in, well, at least in the US, I don't know about New York, but that's really interesting. I'm going to put a pin in that one because we'll come back to that for sure.
Sure.
So great. So Leslie, can you tell us a little bit about how the pandemic changed like your business model from like at the very beginning to kind of where it has brought you today?
Sure. Yeah. And I'm just going to share my screen again briefly. It didn't really change our business model, I have to say, because again, we were already doing programming in public space. It did definitely stop all of our programming for a time. So we weren't able to operate. But as soon as restrictions were lifted, we were ready with some new designs. So one thing that it did is, we were sort of already thinking along these lines as we developed some new programs. We really started with, back in April, everybody was saying, okay, well, how do we come together? We just have to stay apart, right? And so we were thinking, how do our programs bring New Yorkers together out in public space, but keep them apart? So we developed, you know, just this play program, which is an obstacle course. We call it our no touch obstacle course, but it keeps people moving. And, you know, it's pretty simple. And that's been really great for the open streets in particular. So it's colorful, it helps stop the cars. So we've been doing that a lot. And we got some great support from the e-scooter company Spin in the early days for doing that. And that was great. So we were doing that program at Play Streets and Open Streets. And then we also started some other programs that were sort of pandemic response. So we have like this chalk mural making kind of program, which involves these tools. We worked with some designers at Cornell, some graduate students who came up. We told them to make us some street marking tools, and they did. They 3D printed them. So again, working with designers. This one was an industrial design professor at Pratt, who we worked with to design these play elements. And then, so there's the chalk. And then we started something very quickly in September when we were hearing from teachers that students really needed to still see each other. They were lonely and they weren't getting help with homework, and they weren't connecting with each other. So we started this idea of a homework hub in Flatbush. We were set up outside in October every week at a plaza. And we got some kids come by to do homework, but mainly, you know, people, just families and kids wanted to gather and hang out and, you know, talk and see each other. So we created the safe environment. We're continuing the homework hubs. We continued it into the winter at, actually, I'll show, I don't know if Chelsea Market's here, but at the outdoor dining setups with heat lamps. And so we're getting that going again next week near Chelsea Market on West 16th Street. And then we're going to have 3 going up in West Harlem. So, you know, the pandemic, definitely, we came up with some new programs, and frankly, we had time during the closure to spend time on development of new products and programs, which we have a hard time finding time in a typical year when we're so busy just doing the deployments on the street. And then we had, you know, of course, to do health protocols with everything we do. So that's it.
Great. And Shelley, so you kind of alluded to some of the areas and where your business model has changed due to the pandemic. But I want to go back to something that you said about your supply chain. And how did you manage that? Because I know you had a lot of issues with some vendors and you know, manufacturing, not just here, but you know, abroad. Like, how did you overcome some of those supply chain challenges?
So I partnered with a company, a military company. I made some products. I helped to design some products for. So this company knew how to get products in the United States without any kind of hassle, because he dealt with the FDA on a daily basis. When he was in the military, he did a lot of logistics. And one of our products for Anchor Medical, I had signed over the rights for him to sell to the United States military. And when it was time for me to get products for New York City, I asked him if we could team, and he would bring the products in the United States. So I didn't have to worry about FDA. He's got all his FDA boxes checked off. And he, as I said, he worked with them really well. And so he helped me to get products from China here. Then eventually we moved to Taiwan, then Turkey and Mexico. And now we're transitioning from those countries to New York City.
Well, that will be a great and easier for managing your needs as well. Yeah. Do you feel that coming to New York City will increase the cost of your products just a little bit?
Not a little bit, almost double. Yes. Yes, but then we would not have to pay for shipping from overseas. So it will be double, but the way I have been presenting it to New York City, one of the things New York City just told me, without really putting it in writing, I was trying to pitch that we are a New York City company. We are a woman-owned company. We are a small business. They're really not looking for any of that right now. They're just looking for the least expensive product. And so I am signing a contract. It looks like a contract is going to happen with NYCHHC for scrubs because they can't find them anywhere else. They can't find them. I was able to find the materials. And so for now, they're going to get them from me, but I have a feeling when they can get them for less, they will, because the contracting officers are telling me there are no set-asides. You know, in NYCHHC, it's because it's kind of it doesn't seem like they have any kind of incentives for doing business with local companies. So they're using us right now because we can supply them, right? But I'm hoping that the volume would be so high that I can get the product, the fabric, for a whole lot less and lower our prices. But for some reason, the materials for products are so high these days, and nobody knows why. I mean, one of the reasons is because they are, you know, US made.
Yeah.
But still.
No, that's definitely very interesting, because I know that's what keeps a lot of manufacturers out of New York City is the cost of not just doing the work, the labor, but also the cost of sourcing the materials. Leslie, have you experienced any of those challenges with sourcing or of your materials? Oh, you're on mute.
Well, we, you know, in the past, we've thought about moving more of our fabrication to New York, and we hadn't done that when the pandemic hit yet. So we were still working with a guy who fabricates all our stuff up in Massachusetts, and we were lucky in terms of just he has more people in his shop, and a lot of students in his shop in typical times, but you know, he was still able to work for us because he was alone and he had his shop, and so he was alone in his shop, so he was able to make prototypes and then make some kits for some of those new programs that I showed you. So we don't fabricate anywhere near on the you know, the volume that you know, Shelley's talking about, but it's very small orders. But we are seeing a lot more orders now from libraries and city agencies and parks that are interested in the, you know, our furniture, our pop-up furniture. Our school district, San Francisco, which is interesting. They're having a lot of fights about not being open, and so I think they're trying to do some things outside. Anyway, but in terms of, you know, our materials, no, not really.
No, well, that's a good thing. You know, definitely
Yeah.
a challenge where you don't need a challenge. So that's
well, and we're small enough, so maybe it's
right.
Not.
You can to definitely manage those challenges a little bit more.
Desiree, I'm popping off for 5 minutes. I'll be right back on with everybody to continue the conversation.
Great. Talk to you in a few minutes, Leslie. So Shelley, with all this new need for different types of PPE, what do you see as some of the biggest opportunities in your field right now?
So in my field, it would be the scrubs, because everyone is selling masks, you know, so many USA made masks, and they're all very compliant. So the prices are really, really low. And so no one for some reason can find scrubs, and they can't. We have a unique design that we patented that everyone seemed to love. So I think that in New York City, New York State and the VA system, we would do really, really well there with PPEs. And one of the things that we got into also, because everyone is really trying to boost up their immune system, so we customized some supplements to make them kind of not prescription, but they're not the ones that you would find in the stores. The vitamin D with extra, like concentrated version of vitamin D or zinc and things like that, like immune system, elderberry. And we're pitching them to the VA system right now, and they're seriously looking at 6 of those supplements to standardize for the veterans. You know, some of them are for mental health, you know. So I would say the scrubs and the supplements that are kind of uniquely designed for enhancing, making our immune system stronger. That's where the needs are. Typically, you know, I kind of try to find where there needs to be a need, where the needs are, just like with Anchor Medical. The only reason we did well was because we were in a niche market. We found and built surgical products that were not available, that surgeons were looking for, right? And with Aiken Health, we are trying to build it to be a health sustaining company. So, and it's kind of perfect because scrubs kind of prevent the clinicians from getting germs and bacteria on them. It's protective gear. And these supplements build up our immune system so we cannot be attacked by viruses and bugs, right? So, and they're needed. So we're fulfilling the needs that are not there. So I think the supplement part will be a bigger part long term, you know.
Yeah.
The scrubs, I would say for the next 6 months or so, we've got this. I don't see any competitors at all. I don't, you know, so that's what I see right now. And our surgical side with Anchor Medical, we just got a national stock number for a filter that filters out the tiniest bacteria and virus, protecting the clinicians around when someone is being operated on. So say someone has COVID, and he or she's being operated on, or, you know, being anyone in the OR would be protected, because as the patient is breathing out, the filter is filtering out everything to the finest level. It's 99.99978. So we have a national stock number for that, and which is a very big thing for the United States military, which my friend's company, I will give him the rights to sell that because he's a service disabled vet, and it's easy to put on his.
I like that you talk about partnerships a lot, because I think that as a lot of businesses, whether they're a startup or they're an existing company with some years behind them for revenue generation, I think having great business developers as partners can help really sustain and grow a business. So I like that you consistently are finding different ways to partner with those who help you with your sales and distribution.
Yeah, I mean, with his company, we partner both ways. And with New York City, my call this morning, they urgently need scrubs, but they were not willing to pay what I wanted. And so that's why I was trying to talk to them. Hey, I'm local, I'm a woman and I'm small, and they didn't care about that. So then I started talking to them about Cardinal Health, which is the company that's always kicking us out. They even steal our business. They didn't work for. And so I said, I'm willing to partner with Cardinal Health. I said, I could sell it to them and they sell it to you. And then they started talking to me, about the contract, more seriously about the contract. So all of a sudden, the price is not so much of a big deal
Right.
because I am willing to sell it to this giant company so they could sell it to New York City, which is fine with me. I would prefer that anyway, as opposed to getting paid from like 60 New York City hospitals. I get paid from one
Yeah.
big company.
Manage
But
to streamline your
they
revenue.
copy my product.
Mhm.
I'm not saying that they do that. I have to be careful what I say, but that's what a lot of big prime vendors do. They've copied so many of our products, and then we lose the business.
Mhm.
We that happened to us
Well,
where
that's why, one of the things you said in the beginning is that you've done, your due diligence in the sense of understanding what the FDA regulations are and like what's considered like fake products or products that will never be approved, FDA approved, whether it's now or in the near future. And so I think that's like your competitive advantage in a way as well.
yeah, and like with these scrubs, we're gonna make good business. We're gonna do really well with it for a while, but then I'm sure it's going to be copied after a while. That this is what happens, because nobody listens to the small guys, but this is what the big guys do. They just copy your, and it's a very unique style that we have, and the end users love them.
Yeah.
But for a while we'll do well, and then they'll copy it and we'll move on to something else.
Well, it goes, to the, Marxist theories on, resources and power. And, unfortunately, sometimes the big guys do have a lot of resources. And so that thus they can use a lot of their own relative powers in different ways, even though it's, excuse my French, shitty business etiquette. So yeah, definitely. Great. Thank you, Shelley. And Leslie, how about you? What are some of the opportunities that you're seeing in your space right now, whether it's in New York City, whether it's in youth programming, or whether it's in your product development? What areas do you see are going to be advantageous for you in the future?
I also think partnerships, it's a little bit of a different context. I mean, both in the area of sort of delivering programs to New Yorkers on the street, but also possibly, the way we do it already, I guess, is, providing our furniture to other groups that want to do the same things or do it in their own way wherever they are. Yeah, I mean, one of the things we are doing right now, we're trying to do with cultural organizations and after-school programs is anybody that already has an existing program and you just need an outdoor space, we'll take care of that for you. So we're kind of, we've been creators of our own programs, original programming, but now we're opening it up because we have the infrastructure and the operation so that we can, that's what we're starting in West Harlem with a group called Hypothekids that does these math and science clubs. They've had to cancel those because they relied on indoor spaces. So we're going to create an outdoor environment that's open to everybody and have them use the space to offer their workshop sort of weekly, and even have like a cohort of kids come over 15 weeks. So there's definitely new partnerships, and same with cultural organizations. We're working with a symphony orchestra, a neighborhood symphony orchestra, to help get them outside in new ways. And so that's been a totally new area for us.
Just this wasn't on my list before, but just how many team members do you have each? How many do you have at Street Lab?
We just hired our 4th full-time person. So we have 4 full-time people, and then we have a team of part-time people who are temporary, who rotate, although we're switching our model a little bit too now to have longer term people in part-time roles with more responsibility. So anyway, so we've got 4 full-time and a bunch, like about 3 at the moment, part-time.
That's a growth, because I think when you first started here, it was just you, Sam, and
Leia. I don't know if you remember Leia. Yep. Yep, definitely.
So that's a lot of growth there, because as I hear you talking about all these new opportunities, I'm like, oh my gosh, are you going to be?
Yeah, I need a 5th person. I need a 5th person in truth. So. Yeah.
Well, with all the great, work you're doing, I'm sure you'll get there. We're going to talk about fundraising shortly. But Shelley, how many? I know that you've increased your staff as well.
Well, most of the folks who are working are behind the scenes. They're not on payroll. They're
Mhm.
not employees. So, but 6 combined that are not employees.
Mhm. Well, that's great because that's with 2 companies. And you have a lot of different product lines and a lot of different needs on the different types of clients they go to, your customers. So
Yeah,
that's great to have enough people.
yeah, we don't need a lot of 6 people because the hospitals are networks, right? So,
Mhm.
like for example, the VA is just one central office. Same thing with New York City and New York State, and the Department of Defense, the same thing. So you don't have to go to each one.
Mhm. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, that since we're talking about recruiting and hiring, it kind of brings us into fundraising. So Leslie, like, what are some of your fundraising opportunities that you're looking forward to in 2021?
I hope because of the new attention to public space and the need for things, more new uses of public space, that we'll be able to get more corporate partners. And we've always had a mix of funding. We have some government money. I was worried about that disappearing. So far, it seems to be, it might be stable. So we have a pretty even mix between corporate, foundation, and government sources. And then we also have a bunch of individuals who support us every year, which are key. And then we have that earned revenue from selling the furniture, and also from, we charge when we go to affluent locations. So the same programs that we bring to Times Square or to a bid in Soho, we'll bring to Brownsville, and we'll bring to the Bronx and Queens for free. So we have a mix of earned income, but I think I'm hoping, the Spin partnership for us was new, and they were a great partner, and they just happen to want to do business in New York. So it was also a moment. I don't know if it'll come around again, but it was but I think it was great. I think they were very satisfied and we were very satisfied. It was a great partnership. And I'm hoping to find some great, a really good fit partners, corporate partners who want to have their name, all over New York City on the street, well loved by New Yorkers in their neighborhoods, because we offer such on the ground kind of love at the grassroots level. So I'm looking for those, if anybody has any ideas, good corporate partners who would want that. And we figured out, we do social media, and we give them great photos and blog posts and things like that, and they get a lot of good visuals out of it. So
I would have to say definitely your marketing strategies are very stellar. I obviously follow you on social, and we've seen because when we get your reports, we see what publications you guys have been in. You guys definitely get a lot of attention, a lot of press. And I know you guys written, I believe, like one op-ed or you wrote a piece for a publication last year, I think it was, or the year before.
It might have been Streets blog or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, just that's always great ways to continue to create awareness for those who are looking to start businesses. But, your marketing and your social is very outstanding. So hopefully your work showcases to a potential partner or another funder what you're capable of. So.
Yeah, it's true. But I have to say that years prior to this, it was still very hard for us to describe what we do and have people understand it and also see the value necessarily. So I do think now the world has caught up to where we were, just because of this terrible situation where everybody's now looking at public space. So there's a little bit of that's in an odd way, it's helped us because it was still a hard sell, in early days to describe. We're very, very niche, speaking about niche, super niche. So.
No, you are. And I think that's what I think a lot of businesses have issues with, I don't want to say brand identity, but because you kind of straddle, a few different business models, with your furniture designs, and the earned revenue you get off that, that's a whole separate business model in itself. And then bringing that work onto the street and then creating the programming itself is in a sense, it's another business model. So it's just like how the two
Right.
kind of like are combined. Like I get it because I know you for the last few years, but I understand how, you know, from the outside, it can sometimes be confusing, but it's the story of New York Designs. We have so much, like, what is it that you guys do? Like,
Right.
you know, break it down all the time. I still don't think a lot of my friends know exactly all of what I do.
Mhm.
It was like, so what is it, like a space? Is that like is that like a WeWork or something? And it's, you know, how, because we're super niche as well, working with hardware manufacturing design companies. So like, I get it, that as well. So,
Right.
Kelly, how about that? How about your fundraising strategies for 2021?
I am for the most part self-funded, and some friends have lent me funds. So I would like a line of credit. That would be really great. I had some personal issues with my divorce, and so I couldn't really apply for anything until that's behind me.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the reasons I am self-funded. But I think by the summer I should be in good shape to apply for lines of credits and loans on my own. Um, so but for now, you know, some really good friends have been supporting me.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. So
I also know it's hard to access capital as a, you know, medical company, as a medical supply company sometimes, because just the costs sometimes are great, you know, acquiring, as we talked about earlier, supply chain, manufacturing, and things like that. And then as we all know who work in the space, manufacturing lines or product fabrication can take longer than expected sometimes. And so we always say in this industry that being in hardware and design, just manufacturing is hard, it's expensive, and it costs more than what you initially think it will be sometimes.
you have to put a lot of money up front.
A lot of money up front.
Everything is up front, you know, and that's what it is. And then, you know, with New York City clients don't pay on time, or with the mail being so slow, you don't get your checks on time. It hasn't been the easiest
Yeah.
in that. So I would say, you know, at one point I had an American Express card that was like $500,000, you know. I want to be there again.
Yeah.
You know, those things would help again, you know. So that would be,
Mhm.
I think it's coming.
You know, it could be a good thing or a bad thing, but I wonder if the getting lines of credit will be easier because banks want the business. They want the business, you know, at the end of the day, because their goal, sole purpose is to make a profit. I wouldn't be surprised if it will be a little bit easier sometime later this year to access of lines of credit, because as you see around New York City, within all boroughs, all 5 boroughs, all the store closures, you know, landlords or property managers are losing money. Businesses basically cannot afford to either start new from scratch all over again. And you kind of said it, that there are issues, not just, you know, from like that personal standpoint, but for those businesses that didn't survive or will still have yet to survive for this pandemic. It's a blow to the credit, you know, it's a blow to what they already have. And so I won't be surprised if there might be some easier ways to access lines of credit given a few months. We shall see.
Yes.
We definitely shall see. Well, so tell us, so this will be the last question. What advice do you have for new businesses starting in this current environment? I know that people are now calling this a pandemonium instead of a pandemic. So I guess I can use that as well. But what do you think businesses need to start up in this type of environment?
Well, I know there are a lot of folks who are discouraged to start new businesses because they see so many go out, but there are also lots of opportunities. You know, I am being asked for a lot of things that I want to get into because I want to help, but I don't want to spread myself too thin. Like, there are lots of institutions looking for cleaning companies, for example, because they want to make sure that they're cleaning more, right? And for some reason, there seemed to be a lot of delivery couriers, companies. I see a lot of bids, and being asked, do you know any courier companies that could help with this? I'm not sure why. And and as I told you, the supplement part of my business is a new need that came out of this pandemic, right? So there are new opportunities that are also created from all this. So I think folks should look for what they're passionate about, opportunities that are out there that they're passionate about, and not give up.
That's really great. How about you, Leslie? What do you, well, actually, I know Ashley's listening. So Ashley, tell your daddy, because he owns a cleaning company, that there should be more opportunities in the Illinois area, because, this has affected everyone. So make sure you tell Mr. Riley about that. Leslie, how about you? What do you think are some of the opportunities or just, advice that you want to give new businesses starting up in this type of environment?
I think just figure out, well, I don't know, partnerships. I mean, I do think partnerships are a good way to start and to get your foot in the door and learn the needs and learn the market. So if there's a way, again, to try, do trial and error pilot kinds of things in that way without taking on a lot of the risk, you can learn a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely agree. Partnerships is actually, as we talk about Entrepreneurship 101, Business Modeling 101, the partnership box is very important. So great. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for giving us just how you're doing, how you are overcoming these new opportunities and advice for businesses. But I want to give an opportunity for if anyone in the audience has any questions for either of you. So this is a great time. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself or you can put it in the chat.
Oh, wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I've got a call on it. I'll be right back.
Right. This is what, like, learning of being a founder. You're pulled in so many different directions. So I can totally understand that. Aaron, you had a question?
Sure. You were talking about that device that you created, I think, to go down into the lungs to help get oxygen down into it. And I was talking with a guy who runs an ER, a friend of mine, and we were talking about how his hospital deals with it's a ER for children, and how all these other hospitals that are out there, so essentially, if you bring your child into some of these ERs, they're being on the same equipment as adults. And I was wondering, have you come across like needs for devices that aren't really applicable for children and need to be redesigned? And is that like an area that you're looking into? Or
So for that device, we do have a pediatric version of it. But for pediatric patients that come into emergency rooms that have airway issues, they typically don't like to use any device that does not go all the way to the lungs. They prefer to use this, this is called a supraglottic device that actually lays on the trachea and self-seals it, and then you can ventilate by sending air down to the lungs. What they prefer to do is to be very safe, right? Because the airway of a child is so small, they prefer to send an ET tube all the way down into the lungs to make sure that they're actually getting oxygen in the lungs. So they don't like to use these types of supraglottic device that just sits here. So typically your friend would probably most likely use an ET tube. And I know ER doctors are trained to be airway doctors, wound care, all in every field, right? So there isn't anything better than an ET tube for emergency airway for children that I know of. We don't make those.
Yeah, I was just wondering if that was an area when you were looking for needs, is that an area for pediatric, in hospitals that deal with adults? Are there, or even on ambulances, are there?
Yeah, for airway, they tend to like to go all the way to the lungs, which is typically the ET tubes, because they don't wanna, their airway is so small, and it's very hard to read it sometimes. So I know, like, for even like with adults with difficult airway, say they're overweight, obese, you can't really see or make sure when you're using a supraglottic that it's not constricted, obstructed. So they typically would use a difficult airway product device like an ET tube that goes all the way to the lungs. But if you're a regular patient getting surgeries, or you don't look like you have like a complicated airway, they would use a device like ours, which is about 90% of the time. But typically for emergencies like that, for children, they would use ET tubes. Yeah, or if they can't really get through the mouth, they would do an emergency trach. We distribute such a product from Germany. They would just make a hole here, go into airway, and send a tube all the way to the lungs. I'm sure your friend does that a lot. ER doctors do these things like daily. Lots of choking children, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Does anyone we have time for one more question if anyone has any?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Yeah, sure. Is that Ashley?
Yes, I'm sorry, this is Ashley. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Yes. So what both ladies are doing is like, although
I'm sorry, Ashley, your audio is muffled.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's better.
Okay. So what both ladies are doing with both of their businesses is especially considered to be niche. I'm actually a school nurse, and I can relate to the shortage of supplies, especially and the price increases in supplies. I can really relate to that issue, and also with children doing the remote learning, how it has affected them and needing additional help with reading and math skills, and just having an organization out here that's helping with, literacy during such a hard time for parents is a really great thing. I am in person learning. I'm in person now, and we're seeing so many. We're having all of our students back, but we've had a lot of issues in the beginning with supplies, and but we're getting over that hump now. But there was so much fake supplies that wasn't real, that were out on the market in the beginning. So I'm so thankful for the work that Shelley is doing with her company to get supplies that are real to people. And I know the cost is tremendous, because to be made in America, the labor and the just the supply cost is so much higher. So I just wanted to speak to that for the work that both of these ladies are doing. Thank you so much for all you're doing. It's appreciated.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much, Ashley. And who knows, maybe one day there will be Anchor excuse me, Anchor or Aiken, working within the state of Illinois.
Yes,
Because
yes,
that's where Ashley, I'm sure knows this, but the VA National Acquisition Center is right there in Hines.
yes, in Maywood, Illinois.
Yeah, they're the central office for the VAs nationally. So, and I think that's where the cleaning contract is too.
Yes.
Yes,
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Ray, for your comment as well. Thank you so much to our guests who have joined us for our community lunch or women's edition for March 2021. And thank you so much to Shelley and Leslie for your time today and informing us about the work that you're doing and how much growth is in front of you. And I'm here in the space and I'm here to obviously still support you. And I always look forward for more ways to continue to support you. So thank you, everyone. And Denise and Fakazi as well for helping us organize and get this going.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for everything. And I'm so impressed with what Leslie is doing. It's so fantastic.
Yeah, both of your work. Thank you. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.